Yo, Mom's about to go crazy in story mode. Check this shit out. I smoked a cigarette. About to go in there. She doesn't know this is being recorded. All right. Wait, hold on. Who's Jemima?
She's my mother's third cousin.
Okay.
And her name is Robson. Her last name is Robson.
Jemima Robinson.
That was the name she was born with. She went through a whole bunch of husbands after that, but she's still known as Jemima Robinson, the last I knew. Well, anyway, we go up, and this house is up on a hill, up a dirt driveway, red clay dirt driveway, and it's a dog trot house.
What's a dog trot house?
Okay, a dog trot house has a building here, and a porch in between that you can go all the way through. And the whole thing's part of the house, both sides, but generally there's like a kitchen, a living room on one side, and there will be the bedrooms on the other side.
Right.
Okay, or they used to generally call it the parlor and the kitchen in one side, and the bedrooms in the other side. All right, and then the hallway is like the porch in between is raised up the same level as the house, and it's got a roof over it.
All right.
The house will be part of that roof on both sides, but it's just open in the center. And there will be doors going on either side from the side to get in. So you go up there, and there's all these dogs because it's summer, and it's like 110 degrees and humid in Alabama.
So why did they call Jemima's house a dirty house?
Well, so we go up there, and there's all these like 6 dogs laying on the porch to get to the front door, and we go in, and we see Jemima, and we talk, and we've been on a long trip, long drive to get there.
Where did you come from?
Mississippi, I believe.
Mississippi.
Yeah.
Mississippi way.
Or else from Florence, and we went way out in the country somewhere.
Okay.
It was a couple hours, 2 or 3 hour drive that we were on.
Nice.
And so I had to pee, and I kept sitting there wiggling, and I said, "Can I use your bathroom?" She said, "Sure, just go out there on the porch. It's right out front." And I go out there.
The hole in the ground.
It's more than a hole in the ground. It's a refrigerator with the door taken off.
In the ground?
And it's sitting on a hole in the ground, and it's facing the road.
Well, that's just...
Because nobody wants to see you from the house taking a shit, but all the people that are traveling up and down the road can see you. So I'm sitting there on this toilet peeing as the traffic's going by.
That's just a stunner toilet. That's when you want to just take a piss in front of everybody and be like, I'm the boss.
All it was a refrigerator.
It's awesome.
Taking the racks off, the door off, and where the racks go, they put a board across with a hole, and they drilled a hole in the bottom of the refrigerator, and your shit went down there in the front yard.
Awesome.
Anyway.
So is that the dirtiest, darkest part of Aunt Jemima's house? Or?
No, that was the most memorable thing that I remember from it. And then you come in, and I said, "Where can I wash my hands?" And she said, "Well, just go out there, back up, out on the porch, out back there, and go over to the pump and pump you out some water in the pail, and you can wash your hands."
This is a black lady?
No, she's white.
Then why did you say, go out there and pump you some water out there?
So that's what she did. She go out on the back side of the porch. There's a well.
Oh, I forgot. That was a Cajun accent. They sound Cajun.
She actually did have water in the kitchen, but the dishes were piled up like a mountain in both sinks like this. So
we got people around that live around here like that nowadays,
like
too.
Jesse Harms.
No.
And you couldn't even get to the water that was in the sink, which
Burgers.
was also a hand pump. You had to pump.
The sink was a hand pump?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
They didn't have running water. You had to pump it.
What year was it?
Oh, let's see. About 1970. No, not that late. Let's see. 19. Oh no, I was out of college. About 1971 or 72, something like that.
1972.
Yeah. And so I go out the back, and here's this water pump, and I look out the back, and there's a holler.
The what?
A holler.
Oh, what?
I told you she lived on top of the hill. Well,
a
when you live
holler?
on top of the hill goes down, and there's a holler. It's basically a big ditch on
A holler.
Yeah, where the mountain goes down.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that
and
what
guess
hillbillies call topographical shit?
Yeah.
Scientifically,
so
a holler.
What's in the holler?
What's in holler?
Guess what's in the holler?
I don't know.
That's where they threw all of their garbage.
Oh, no.
All of their old broken down cars and farm equipment, dead animals, everything was in bones, everything was spread out, just been thrown over into the holler.
Whoa.
It was lower.
It's awesome. It's like in Apocalypto when Jaguar Paw got away from the Aztecs and he ran through the mesa fields of corn and he fell into the pit, the hollow they had that they called it, where they would just throw all the dead sacrificed bodies in there.
I didn't mention the outdoor kitchen too.
An outdoor kitchen?
Yeah, because it's hot in Alabama.
Jemima had an outdoor kitchen?
And in the summertime, you go out the back door of the kitchen. You go out the side door, and then you go out the porch, go down the steps, and go over, and there's the outdoor kitchen on a lean-to off the side of the kitchen.
A lean-to?
Yeah, just a roof off the side of the kitchen, off the side of the kitchen wall. And that lean-to, she's got an old cast iron stove out there sitting on a pile of bricks. And this was her outdoor kitchen. Whenever she needed to heat water, she'd take her pans out there from the water and put it on there. If she had to do dishes, she'd bring it in then, the hot water, and do her dishes. Well, that's why the dishes were piled so high.
And she's like, I'm going to cook some fried chicken and some syrup.
Now, this woman couldn't have been more than, she was quite a bit younger than Mom. I'd say Mom was probably...
Your mom?
Yeah, Mom was 30.
She was friends with your mom?
She was her cousin, I told you.
Oh.
So she was, and Mom lived in Alabama till she was about 21, I think. So anyway, that woman was about 20 years younger than Mom.
Okay.
And so she didn't look very old. She was real skinny and real freckled and redhead, and she had long grayish reddish hair she was in her, I would say, her mid to late 40s.
And what was her name?
Jemima Robinson.
Oh, she wasn't Aunt Jemima from the syrup bottle.
No.
Okay, I was hoping we had a big stake in the company.
Now that's the Bills. That's the Bills up in Tennessee that had all the slaves and had all the. There's black Bills and there's white Bills, and they're all up in Tennessee.
Nice.
Where the two brothers settled.
Who's the two brothers?
Though they weren't Bills. They were the Lindsays settled in Tennessee, and they met the Bills there. And some of the Bills married into the Lindsays, and they moved to Alabama. But the brothers married sisters, and they moved to Alabama, and they lived not too far from Florence, but way out in the country.
Where'd they move from to Alabama?
Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee to Alabama.
Was it Lawrenceburg? Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, I believe it was.
Now, who of us was in Mississippi?
Well, Grandma, after they had a farm. The Bills, my grandparents, my grandma and grandpa Bills lived with their parents and grandparents in Alabama on a farm. The Depression came along in the 30s and early 40s, and all of the people, their farm they had a store, they had a sheep dip, they had a cotton gin, they had a sodra mill. different they stored cotton for people, in the silos.
That was the Great Depression, right?
Yeah, the Great Depression in 1929. Actually, it started 10 years before that, but it really took off between 29 and 39. So anyway, all the neighbors would go to the store and they would buy their food and everything they needed from the store on credit. And so when the Depression hit, they just kept putting this stuff on credit and they couldn't pay their bills. And my grandparents they didn't charge their neighbors because they didn't have any money and their neighbors didn't have any money. Well, they ended up losing their farm. So they all moved to Mississippi.
Oh, so wait, hold on.
And became sharecroppers.
So when they had the farm selling stuff to people, they didn't charge them.
They couldn't. They bought the stuff on credit.
They didn't charge. Oh, the farm bought the shit on credit.
No. Well,
the people bought the stuff on credit.
People bought the stuff on credit, but my grandparents and great grandparents and great great grandparents who owned the farm also had a loan with the bank.
Okay.
And so they couldn't pay the loan because the people didn't pay them.
Because they were getting it on credit. So everyone's getting everything on credit. Now no one can pay anyone.
Well, the banks failed back then.
And the banks failed back then, just like they did in 2008.
Because they didn't have the Federal Reserve back then.
That's an awesome story.
So anyway,
keep going.
They all had to move. Grandma and Grandpa Bill's, my mom's grandparents, stayed in Alabama. They were very old and they didn't want to move. We went to their house for a reunion once, and they said this was the best house we ever lived in. It was wonderful. I swear it wasn't any bigger than the tiny house, and it was all just broken down pieces of wood.
That's the 30s.
Okay, I'm not telling you, I'm not done. The roof had holes all in it. The door was a Coca-Cola sign that was hanging on an angle like this. We walked in, the walls were all papered with newspaper.
And how old were you?
And the room was probably no bigger than this living room right here.
How old were you at this time?
Oh, this was when we went to the reunion. I was about 21.
21?
18.
Living in a Coca-Cola door
so
house.
Anyway, we went down to this family reunion. That picture at the top of the stairs was taken there.
Really?
Yeah, that big picture of the watering hole.
Oh, that's where that's from. That's a Louisiana Bayou picture right there.
This was the finest house they ever lived in. And literally it was just a one-story house. And it had a bit of a floor on part of it, like this. And that's where all the kids lived. Right. Downstairs, there wasn't a bigger room than this. There were the smallest number of people that ever lived in that house were 12.
Did you say there was
12 people in that one house.
Did you say there was a little bit of a floor?
Well, the floor had cracks like this. They said it was real easy to clean the floor. You just swept everything into the cracks.
Through the cracks, because there's big openings in the floor. Jeez.
And it was just raised up on stones.
Wow.
So that's where your family came from. So when you look around this place or that place over there, people clawed their way from that and they lost that. That was the finest house they ever lived in. Then they went to Mississippi and they lived as sharecroppers.
I never said this place or that place over in Elkhart was a shitty place.
Oh, yeah, you did.
I love these places as a joke, as a sarcastic joke.
Anyway,
it was sarcasm.
They moved to Mississippi
I thought you passed
in a wagon.
In a wagon?
In a wagon with mules.
Mules?
Yes.
Yeah. Chuckle.
And that was a long drive to pile all your family belongings and 8 kids.
So they went from...
And the mules and the chickens and everything else.
So they went from where to where?
From Alabama to the Delta in Mississippi, over by the Mississippi River to Ruleville.
All right.
Third way down Mississippi. And they were able in that area, that Delta was rich farmland because it flooded every year from the Mississippi River. This is before FDR started building the dikes in the 30s, because the Mississippi River would just flood and spread water for hundreds of miles out.
Oh, FDR built the lesbians?
levies.
Oh, levies. Okay.
Okay, so anyway, they found a guy that owned land. This is what a shark cropper is. And they were able to live in his shack on the land that they were going to be farming.
In Mississippi.
In Mississippi. And so usually it was like 10, 15 acres, something like that. Whatever a single family, depending on how many kids you had and what equipment you had and all, they would plant cotton or whatever they were doing, mostly cotton back then. And so
everybody was slaves.
No, well,
that's why they had to live in a Coca-Cola shack house in the bayou.
They didn't have slaves. They didn't have slaves.
No, I said everybody was slaves.
They were
broke as shit.
They were sharecroppers. Black and white both were sharecroppers.
No, I know everybody was broke as shit. That's what I meant. They were slaves.
And
the money.
He would let them stay in that house. He had a company store generally that they could go and buy stuff from and put on credit.
Who did?
The owner of the land.
Nice.
Okay, he would have a line of credit at the store, and his sharecroppers could go there, and if they needed to buy sugar or something that, tobacco or whatever.
Speaking of tobacco, I have to smoke a cigarette. I will be right back.
Then they had to give him, I think he got 2/3. Usually the owner got 2/3 of the crop that they raised, and they would get 1/3. If the crop was bad, the owner would say, well, you didn't give me my 2/3, so get out. Get out, it's your fault.
So we weren't related to the sharecropper that they were.
We were the sharecroppers.
Oh, so we went there and became the sharecroppers?
Became the sharecroppers. My mother's family, her dad and mom, some of their cousins, some of their aunts and uncles.
Oh, they started the store then. They started the sharecroppers.
No, they didn't start a store there. They didn't have a store in Mississippi.
You said there was
They had a store in Alabama that they lost during the Depression.
Oh, okay.
Just after they moved to the Delta was a promised land because you could make money there.
Then they became sharecroppers in the Mississippi Delta.
And they became sharecroppers in the Mississippi Delta.
And what is a sharecropper?
I just explained to you.
I know what it is. I'm kidding.
And so they lived in these houses. Generally, they were shotgun shacks.
Shotgun shacks.
Yeah, and they were a house that was long and narrow, up on stilts, and they were just wood walls, wood roof, wood floor, on stones, sometimes on cypress boards. And anyway, then the river would flood in the spring, in the late.
That's why the houses was up on boards, stone.
No kidding. So anyway, the river would flood. My mom said, she showed me this one house. We lived there for 3 months and we could not get out because the river had flooded and we were surrounded by water for 3 months. The only way we could move was by a boat. They lived and how do you use the toilet there? You have a hole and it drops down in your shotgun shack into the floor.
Dude, Chinese
and the water
toilet.
goes away. And the water carries it away. The flooding water carries it away.
Oh, so it's a flood toilet. It doesn't, at least you still have irrigation.
3 months they stayed at
in the shack, in the house with the flood?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to go smoke a cigarette, and then I'll come back and listen to the next part of the story.
The next part of the story is FDR.
All right, she said the next part of the story is FDR. Franklin Delano Roosevelt happens. I'm out here smoking a cigarette on the porch. We're going to go back in and resume the rest of the Judith Harms storytelling hour. But you gotta give me a second, I'm smoking a cigarette. Alright, here we go. It's like 80 degrees out there.
Yeah, it's humid.
No, I mean like 80 degrees, it calmed down and shit. It's not so hot.
Humid.
Yeah, it's not humid, it's cooled off.
Yeah.
Alright, so
let's go back to Alabama now. Grandpa and Grandma Bill's is my grandparents' grandparents. My mother's grandparents and great-grandparents. Okay. Her grandparents lived there, and they had their former slave living with them in this house that I told you was the finest house they ever had.
Awesome.
They had a little porch on the back of the house that he slept in, and he was in his 80s.
Well, they gave him a porch.
And I said, well, what
Was it?
Now, Flo is the one that told me this story. She told me his name, and I keep forgetting it. It was quite a complicated name, but I probably got it written down somewhere. I don't know where. But anyway.
In the logs.
No. Anyway, she told me the story that she was a little girl and she remembers the slave guy very well. He wasn't a slave at the time, but he lived with him after they got rid of slavery. And he lived
after they got rid of it.
Yeah, he lived on the back porch. Well, he was in his 80s.
Right.
You know, what was he going to do for a job? So he lived with them, and here's what he did. He cooked. He hauled water, because the water was down the hill a ways, in the holler.
Oh, damn.
Down in the holler.
Wait, with all the lights?
No, this was a different location. This wasn't at Jemima's house.
Oh,
there were
okay.
hollers everywhere in Alabama.
Oh, okay.
In fact, Mom got so mad at her brothers putting old junk cars that never ran, that never could. They kept buying these junk cars, and they laid them all over the property, and she was embarrassed by the stuff being there. So she took a pry bar and pried all these cars off and pushed them all into the holler and cleaned the yard up and mowed the yard. My mother all by herself.
Your mom pushed a bunch of junk cars in the holler?
Yeah, with a pry bar.
Oh, and that's where the water was coming?
These were cars that were up on blocks, most of them. They were just total junk.
Okay.
They weren't anything that had run for 20 years.
And that's where.
And so she pushed them into the holler, but there was a well down the hill in the holler. And so you'd go out the back porch of this best house they ever lived in place, and you'd go down a bunch of steps, and there was like a deck of a thing, and down at that deck area there was a well dug down, and it went down into the hollow, because the water naturally runs down the hill.
Yeah, you gotta get,
so you get the water
underground.
Closer, it's closer. And so this 80-plus-year-old man would go out every day and he'd haul water buckets. She said he had a yoke thing. He'd carry one on either arm.
Yeah, we know what a yoke is.
And he would carry these buckets back up those stairs and into the house so they could do all the things they had to do, and he would cook and do that kind of stuff.
And it was
that
awesome.
was his keep.
And they called it a keep back then.
Yeah.
That's what you do to ensure what you have.
And he slept on the back porch.
That's why they call the little fort a keep.
No, that's a different kind of keep.
No,
a keep in medieval times was a place where they kept food stores, valuables, munitions.
But that's a house.
No, it isn't a
That's where that
house.
word
No,
comes
it's
from.
generally, no, it isn't. It isn't. It's more, generally, it is a stone building.
I always
With a
know.
stone roof.
I know what
to try and keep people from getting
to
in.
keep people. It has multiple definitions, but I know what the word keep is. It's what you have and you get to keep for yourself and for your
It's
people.
what you try to keep locked up so people don't steal it.
And that's what a
it
keep was back then, and that's what he was trying to get on the porch. He was just trying to have a place
No,
to
he
live.
was keeping his keep. He was earning his keep, which it meant his.
He gets to live on the keep.
He gets to eat and have a roof over his head, and he did have a roof over his head. He just didn't have walls.
That was outside.
I told you, he lived on the back porch.
Well, sometimes the porch is like 15.
No. This was
Holy
a porch.
shit!
This was a porch with a lean-to roof over the edge. $10
Well, yeah,
been, so that would have been about...
A million years ago.
No, about 1925, 1930. About 1930, probably.
Okay. So the Great
So
Depression's going on.
the war was over in 1865.
World War I's over with.
No, the Civil War.
Oh,
Jesse, the Civil War. He was a slave.
You said 1920s.
He was a slave. The Civil War was over in 1865.
Yeah, but
But it didn't come to the South until like 1866 or so.
Yeah, but you said the war was
so that's 40 years there, plus 20, so that would make him 60. And say he was 20 when the Civil War. He was in his mid-80s, so he was born before the Civil War, and he was a slave. He was freed, and then he went with the family and stayed working with the family for ever since.
Yeah, but...
And lived with the family after he got too old to do really heavy physical stuff.
You said when
farm stuff.
You said when him and they were living at the house over there in Mississippi.
No, in Alabama.
In Alabama, there was a war going on at the time, is what you're telling me.
No. There was a war that ended in 1919. That was the First World War ended.
1919, the First World War ended.
Yeah. And back then, my mom's aunt, what was her name? God.
Jemima.
No, that Jemima was a third cousin. Her mom on the Lindsay side had 5 or 6 sisters. I've got a picture of them around here somewhere with all their names on them. But anyway, one of these sisters, who was the oldest sister, she and her husband had 19 children.
Wow.
She was a whole lot older than my mom, a whole lot older than the other people. So she had all these children. Then my grandmother. She was older than my grandmother by quite a bit. She got married at 14, so she was still older by at least 20 years. So anyway, more than 20, as a matter of fact. So anyway, her husband was a truck driver in 1919, and he supplied this Air Force base in Alabama. And the soldiers were coming back from the First World War, and they were sent to these Air Force bases to muster out and do all the different things before they were sent home. Well, anyway, what they brought home with them was the Spanish flu.
Oh, no.
And that was at the Air Force base. He was a truck driver that delivered supplies to the Air Force base. She didn't work except at home. Well, she had 19 children to take care of, so yeah, she worked. So anyway, he got the Spanish flu. He brought it back. She got the Spanish flu. All but 5 of their children got the Spanish flu. Everybody died except 5 of the children. Okay? This was in 1919 to 1920, I believe, or 1918 to 1920, when the Spanish flu happened. So anyway, there were 5 kids with no parents. And all
parents died of the Spanish flu?
Both parents, because the Spanish flu killed healthy people that were more adults more than it killed younger people.
Oh.
It didn't kill children or babies hardly ever, it killed adults.
Wow.
And so both adults and all of the older children, they all died.
Maybe they should think of those ideas when they create the coronavirus.
There were 5 kids. Now, I remember me telling you that all the Robinsons and Lindsays and Bills intermarried?
Yeah.
Well, their last name was Robinson.
Okay.
And this was Jemima's parents, Robinson. And Jemima and her 4 brothers and sisters were left homeless with no family except cousins and third cousins and aunts and uncles and things like that. So they sent off. First of all, they were all close to where my grandmother and her parents and the Bills families, the Bills and the Lindsays, like I said, were intermarried. So both sides of the family lived in the same in two houses right next to each other, basically.
Okay.
And they all had the same farm. They all lived on this farm, the one that was lost, including my grandmother and her husband.
And where was that farm?
It was in Alabama at Rogers, near Rogersville.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, these 5 kids, for a while, they lived with them. So not only did this little house that wasn't as big as this room have 8 kids of my grandparents, plus 2 adults, my grandma and grandpa.
Right.
They had 5 more kids in addition, and you can imagine it was a little crowded in there.
Is
So
that
then they started farming those kids off. They found different relatives.
Wait. Hold on. What does the term farming those kids off mean?
Well, other people who had farms needed labor. Maybe they only had 4 or 5 kids. They could take another kid, feed them, as long as they worked the fields.
Did they live there?
So what they did, those 5 kids, they sent them to different relatives around the area. As far some were up in Indiana, some were in Kentucky, some were in Tennessee, some were in Alabama. The other one, Doris Robinson, she ended up in Nashville, and she and her husband got quite rich. I remember seeing them at a family reunion years ago.
Nice.
But
That's awesome.
we used to go not just to the Bills family reunion, we used to go to the Lindsay family reunion and the Robinson family reunion. Now they're not having any of them.
Well, people get too old and they don't do it anymore.
Yeah, well, they're so scattered now.
Everyone's scattered.
So anyway, that's how Jemima was so close to my mom. But she was a dirty can you imagine?
A dirty what?
They had 19 kids. The people that died of the Spanish flu had 19 kids.
Who are those people
They
again?
were my mother's aunts' children.
And they're...
And my mother's aunts' children and their children. So that's how they ended up third cousins or second or
Are
first
they
cousins.
related to Jemima?
Jemima was one of them.
Okay.
She was one of the 5. So that's why they were so dirty. There were 21 people living in this house.
Hillbilly style. I have to go get another beer.
So anyway, that's getting us out of Alabama. I have one more Alabama story.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold it. I gotta go get another beer. I gotta pee. I'm gonna come back and we're gonna finish up the story. And then we're gonna get to JFK because FDR, because you didn't do that.
Now, yeah, that's part of that's a Mississippi story.
Alright, we want to hear the Mississippi story. Alright, we're getting there. You guys gotta hold on. And we're back on the podcast. You're listening to the BBC with Judith Harms.
Alright, are you done?
I'm back. Alright, so we were in...
So so anyway, we're still in Alabama. It's the Depression, and there's 8 kids, 2 adults, and these 5 other kids. So that's 13 kids and 2 adults living in this house, and there is a fireplace in there. It's an old stone fireplace, but there's no bathroom
Oh no!
or anything like that.
Just like there is now in Elkhorn.
Yeah, well, this is a little more. There's a toilet over there, which I really appreciated today since I had diarrhea all morning. But
Ew.
there's no bathroom over there at this house. And so everybody goes outside. They either go to the barn, they go to the woods. There's no toilet paper. They use corn cobs for toilet paper.
Ew.
There is no privacy because
You're in the woods.
13 kids running around and 2 adults right in that area at all times. And there's no toilet. You know, no, not even a pit toilet. No pit toilet.
Alright.
So, the government comes around and they said, we got a good deal for you. We are going to build you a toilet. You've got all these kids. You know, you really need a toilet. We'll build you a toilet.
But the government's gonna come through and build
They
a
did. This
toilet?
is the state government.
Oh, the state government.
State government. They
We
were
gonna build you a
got a
toilet.
government grant. They were hiring people. The state was to
You
go
got
around
too
and
many
build
kids shit around here.
Said all you have to do is give us $5 and we'll build you this beautiful toilet.
There's $5 toilets all day,
You know,
every day.
we'll provide the wood, we'll dig the hole, you know, it'll be all set up, you'll have a toilet. Well, guess what? They didn't have $5.
They
didn't have 25 cents between them.
No.
Are you listening?
Yeah.
For 3 months at a time.
Wait a minute, 25 cents
25 cents.
for 3 months
at a time. This was the Depression. You lived on the corn that you could grind, that you grew and ground, the eggs that you had, though you tried to sell the eggs so you could buy tobacco. You lived on the vegetables you could cook and a chicken. If you had a chicken, you could kill a chicken. But if you killed the chicken, then it wouldn't produce eggs, so then you'd be screwed up.
Did you guys try stealing?
So anyway, it wasn't me. This was my
No, I mean those guys.
grandparents.
Did they
No,
try
they didn't
stealing?
steal. Good grief, Jesse. They were mayor of the town. They were on the school board.
Wait, what?
They were the mayor of Rogersville. They were on the school board. They were prominent citizens. They owned a business.
Oh my God! Wait, those are people related to me?
Yeah, my great-grandparents.
They owned the town? And
No, they were the mayor.
The mayor?
Yeah.
They owned the business?
Yeah, the fire department, they were the mayor, the fire, they were the police, they were everybody. Sort of like Rollville now, where my cousins, my brother William, my
Yeah.
cousin Butch, my cousin Greg, they were all either the police chief, the fire chief, or the mayor.
God damn. It's awesome.
So anyway,
What does FDR have to do?
we haven't even got to FDR yet. So anyway, they couldn't build a toilet because they didn't have $5. So they continued to use the woods, use the barn, and use the corn
Oh my
cobs.
God.
So this was 13 kids and 2 adults, 15 people. Until they farmed off the other 5 kids, and there was only 8. Of course, there's 2 kids buried there.
Bears?
2 babies buried there. There were 10 kids. My mother was one of 10 kids.
Where'd they die from?
The first one was a boy. His name was Ollie Inglesby Bills.
I remember Ollie Ingleby.
He was named after my grandpa. My mom's father, or my mom's father's name was Ollie Ingleby Bills. Okay, they had a son. Their first son was Ollie Ingleby Bills.
The same
Junior.
Ollie Ingleby Jr.
He lived until he was 4 years old, and then he got appendicitis. They think that's what it was. They used to say, well, he ate some bad apples and he got apple sickness. Well, really, the rest of them agreed that it was appendicitis because his appendix burst. They had no money to get a doctor over there. There wasn't a doctor within 50 miles to start with. You had to go all the way to Florence to get a doctor. All they had were mules to get there.
How far away was Florence?
I just said 50 miles.
50 miles.
And this is up and down hills, you know. It's not a straight shot from here to Elkhart.
Sorry, I'm a little bit drunk. I can't recall what you just said, but I'm listening.
So anyway, he died,
No.
and they buried him behind the house in a little family graveyard there.
They had their own family graveyard?
Billy's and the Lindsays and the Robinsons, they all lived there. People died.
Oh, okay.
People lived and died there. So anyway, was taken
Right.
up here. And so anyway, the next child, my grandma was always pregnant with 10 kids.
Nasty grandma.
So the no, it wasn't her at all. Nobody had birth control back then.
I know.
So anyway, the next kid was my Uncle Marlon, and he was 6'6" when he grew up. And he was a character. He was mean. He was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, a night rider for one thing.
What?
He ran a plantation when I was in my teens. Even when I was a child, he ran a plantation for somebody that owned a plantation. He was the plantation, the master guy for it. They called him, what did they call him?
Grand Dragon.
No, they had a name. He was a Grand Dragon, but that was a Ku Klux Klan thing. What did they call those guys? A plantation master. Wasn't the guy that owned the plantation, he was a guy, overseer. He was the overseer.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, he was the overseer of the plantation, saw that all the fields were planted with cotton, everything got watered, everything got cold,
beautiful.
everything got planted. This was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres of cotton.
Awesome.
Okay, so anyway, that's what Marlon did for
so many t-shirts and socks and pants.
So anyway, he was the first child, and then my mother was the next child. She was the oldest girl, he was the oldest boy that survived. Then they had another baby, and it only lived about a week, I believe they said.
Oh, fuck.
And it was more like an abortion than it was premature. So they didn't put it in the graveyard. My grandma was really upset about it, and she wanted to be able to visit the grave every day. The grave be right there. So they literally dug the grave right off the front porch steps and buried this baby right next to the porch.
What the fuck?
So that's where that baby ended up. So when they moved to Mississippi, eventually, that baby got forgotten. That the one that was premature. It was almost like it had a miscarriage. It was like a miscarriage almost. And because I think it was like 5 or 6 months old when it died. When it was
alive and they
but the 4-year-old, they took that one's body and they brought it to Mississippi and buried it in the
Jr.?
Yeah, Ollie Inglesby Jr. They brought the casket with them to Mississippi. They dug him up and brought him to Mississippi.
They dug him up?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They took the casket and they took it to Mississippi, and he was buried in the cemetery in Ruleville. But they didn't have any money for a stone, so when I must have been,
They found a rock.
No, I must have been 12 or 13, and we'd gone down, and everybody went out to the cemetery. They finally, all the brothers and sisters got together and bought a stone, because my grandpa had died by that time. It was just my grandma. And so they buried him, and they got a stone for him. And so they got a stone for Ollie Inglesby at the same time, so they're buried next to each other out in the Ruleville Cemetery.
Because there's a long time before you run into a place that sells headstones.
No, it's a matter of money, Jesse.
No, that too, but there's not headstones.
Thousands of dollars for a headstone these days.
Nowadays, but
back then, it still was a lot of money.
Back in the day, how many headstone guys did you run into? Not very many.
No. Are you kidding? That was a much more common thing back then because people died constantly.
Really?
I mean, people. When my mother was growing up, they had typhoid, they had trichinosis, they had diphtheria. They all had diphtheria. They had all the childhood diseases that we have vaccines for now. They all got them. They had lockjaw, tetanus, because of bad stepping on nails, and then they had diphtheria, typhoid from bad water. Diphtheria was partially a waterborne disease, but it
Now, how
can
many
spread a lot of
people
ways.
died from that stuff?
Nobody in the family died from any of that.
Damn, we're
They all
awesome.
got seriously sick, but none of
We're
them died.
fine. Now, what would you say is COVID-19? Because I had COVID-19 for a week and I was sick. I had to call off work and then I went back to work. Would you say diphtheria and typhoid fever and all the stuff they have vaccines for nowadays, it would be
Oh, what was
worse?
the other one they had?
Is
that
it
was so
worse
bad?
than
Some of them were really
COVID-19?
bad. Some of them were terrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
Montezuma's revenge.
no, it's not like that. It's a lot worse than that. Those are diseases that have killed millions and millions of people over the years.
Now-
People died constantly from those things,
But
especially children
But my question is,
and old people.
my
Very
question,
few old people live past 60.
my question is, what, were those diseases that killed millions and millions of people worse than COVID-19? The novelty coronavirus?
I don't know. I'm not
Okay.
a doctor.
Damn, I wish I was a doctor. I would know this stuff. Alright, keep going on. What does FDR have to do
Smallpox.
with
The
it?
smallpox was the other one.
Smallpox? Wait, they had smallpox? Us? I thought that was in the 1500s.
No.
It kept going?
People had smallpox right up until they had vaccinations in they started to be more common around the First World War, but not everybody was
Right.
vaccinated by, not only did they have smallpox, they had what was more common with people that worked on farms, which was cowpox, which was very similar.
Cowpox.
Yeah.
That was back when they had the big needles. They have small tip needles now that you don't even feel. But back then they had the big, wide, big ass needles with a giant syringe.
They never saw a doctor.
And it was
They
scary.
never saw a doctor.
No one saw a doctor?
No, they didn't have any
They're just like, I'm gonna
There
chuck.
wasn't a doctor within 50 miles, Jesse.
They're just like, I'm gonna chuck it out.
All the kids were born at home. My mother was born at home. She never had a birth certificate. She never could have voted if Trump had been around because she never had a
Right.
birth certificate.
So when there was smallpox and diphtheria and typhoid fever and everyone had the sicknesses and stuff, they never got any vaccines and they just chucked through it and they were like, we're all
No,
right.
they did not all chuck through it by any means.
Obviously not.
Tons of them died
Well, yeah, but some of them were around, right?
because there were a lot of people died.
Hey, look, there's an advertisement for Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
You ever see that movie?
I don't watch those
That's a
cartoons.
cute movie.
Anyway, so that's my last story about Alabama that I can think of right at the moment. So they all moved to Ruralville, Mississippi environs, which is, within, I'd say, a 50-mile radius of that area, out in the country in these shacks where people sharecroppers would farm a certain amount of land.
Right.
And my mom said the first 10 years they were in Mississippi, they moved 16 times.
First, how many years?
The first 10 years that they were in Mississippi, they moved 16 times. They would get in a dispute with the guy that owned the land, or he sold the land, or their crop wasn't good and they had to move because they couldn't pay the guy, or they found a better place where they could farm more acres. So anyway, they moved. Or they discovered that the land that they were on
Didn't work and it was trash.
flooded most of
Shit
it
happened,
for
a
months and
disaster.
months.
A disaster for months and
Yeah.
months and months.
So anyway, they moved 16 times first 10 years.
Damn.
Now my grandpa at this point was getting old. Remember, he'd already had 10 kids. And he was in his, this was about 1940, let's see, we got to the World War. Got to World War II. My mom went to
Alright, it's World War II
my
now.
mom, let's go back. My mom's 14 years old.
All right, now it's not
This
World
was
War
back in
II.
Alabama. This was back in Alabama. I told you they farmed kids out. Well, my mom got farmed out at 14 to take care of a pregnant woman and her kids.
Okay, tell that story.
Okay, this was in Alabama. And she said she spent the whole time working for this guy. All the money went back to her parents. But she spent the whole time fending off the husband of this woman who was trying to screw her the whole time. So she said she was glad to get away from that job, glad when they finally moved to Mississippi, she could do honest work that she didn't have to worry about getting raped on.
That's what I felt when they came out with the COVID-19. You said it yourself. She said she was glad to get away with that jab, and I said I was glad to get away from not taking the fucking
So
jab.
let's forget about COVID-19. We're in
the shits now.
We're in Mississippi.
World War II.
And what are they doing in Mississippi? They're sharecropping. Okay, now my mom's growing up, and William was the next to the youngest brother. Deloy was the youngest. He's dead. He's been dead since he was 45. He died of lymphoma from working at Elkhart Products and getting exposed to chemicals that...
Oh, he was the guy that got enclosed with the fiberglass?
Had the Corvettes.
The fiberglass?
It wasn't fiberglass, no. It was a kind of plastic fitting that Elkhart Products made.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Anyway, he died at 45. But when he was when William was just the next oldest to him, just a couple years older, and William was like 3 years old, and my mom was like, I don't know, 14 or 15. I don't know. Maybe not that old. She wasn't that much older. Anyway, they were out hoeing cotton in the fields, and William was given a hoe, and he's hoeing this cotton, and he's like 3 years old, and Mom's going along hoeing the cotton. They all wore long sleeves and these long hats and long dresses and everything to keep the sun, because the sun's so bad, even though it's 90 degrees, they all wore long sleeves.
90 degrees.
So anyway, William's out there, and he just sits down on the ground. I'm not gonna do this anymore. And my mom says to him, well, William, you gotta work the rest of your life. You might as well get used to it.
And he did.
William sits down on the ground, and he just starts bawling his eyes out. And she said, William always said that was a pivotal moment for him. He said he worked for years for other people, working in garages, for dealers and all of that body work and all. He said that was a pivotal moment for him, that he said to himself, I am not going to be a farmer. I am going to get a better job and a better job, and my kids are going to have better jobs, and we're going to get educated, we're going to know how to do stuff, and we're going to get away from this kind of life.
And he was 3?
He was 3. He always said that was a pivotal moment for him.
I bet he recognized it a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm sure, but he remembers that. He would tell that story. Oh, he would tell that story so many times whenever we'd go down there.
My mom made me mad picking cotton and made me cry. My mom made me pick cotton and hoe.
No, it wasn't picking cotton. Now, picking cotton's a whole different thing.
It hurts your hand.
A 3-year-old can't pick cotton because you're carrying a bag that's going to weigh 500 pounds, drag a bag that's going to weigh 500 pounds behind you.
Yeah, who did you guys have that?
I did that. One summer we were down there, we decided we'd see, because by this time they had combines that would pick the cotton, but they couldn't get into the corners. So mostly black people would go around, mostly older black women.
That's what I was asking. Who did you guys have do that?
Would pick the cottons in these corners, and the kids. And so Marlon took us out to his plantation. We picked cotton for a day. And I looked at this bag, and this bag's like 10 foot long that you put over your shoulder.
Wait a minute.
You use these fingers here.
You pick cotton?
And you pick those folds of cotton out like throw them in the back of this bag under your arm, in this bag.
Yeah, I watched self-inspirational
I paid
videos.
12 cents. I was able to buy 2 Coca-Colas, 5 cents for Coca-Cola back then.
How long did it take you to do that?
We were out there, I would say probably 4 or 5 hours.
4 or 5 hours.
But we weren't fast like the people that would go down and pick.
Yeah, they're professionals.
They were going
Yeah. That's how you master the craft.
Yeah. Well, they don't have anybody doing it anymore. They got machines that'll do that stuff now.
That
But
just
anyway,
screwed everything up.
and oh God, it was hot. It was miserable.
Because you're in Alabama?
No, this was in Mississippi. Where
So you were in
I told you
Mississippi.
Marlon was an overseer of a cotton plant.
Right.
So we got in the back of the truck back then. Everybody rode. They always put kids in the back of the truck. You bounced up and down. You sat on the rails of the thing. You could bounce out if you hadn't held on tight. Down these bumpy dirt roads, and go out to a cotton plantation and pick cotton for 4 or 5 hours. You didn't even have anything to drink. So those 2 Coca-Colas, we went down to the country store and got them out of the big red Coca-Cola coolers with ice in the bottom, ice and water at the bottom, and the little bottles for a nickel. They were sitting on the front porch of the country store. That was something. Boy, I remember that Coke. That was so good. That was the best Coke I ever had.
I bet. After picking cotton for 5 hours in Mississippi.
12 cents
For 12 cents.
work.
This is the best podcast.
And there was a bunch of us cousins. There had been at least a half dozen of us went out there doing that. And we all went down, all my Marlon's kids, and Wanda, Deanna, and Beverly.
Wanda Deanna. She
Yeah.
sounds sexy.
Well, those were Williams' 3 girls.
Okay.
But 3 of the 4 girls. The oldest, the other one was too little. Lisa was only about 4 then. And we all went down in the back of the truck and picked cotton.
Oh, God.
Oh, speaking of Marlon.
I have to smoke a cigarette. I'll be right back. You're listening to the BBC with Judith Harms telling stories. I'm out here on the porch smoking a cigarette. I'm your narrator, Skirt Reynolds. And thank you for listening to the podcast. We're going to keep going on after I smoke this motherfucking cigarette. I shouldn't be smoking cigarettes, and you shouldn't be smoking cigarettes either. So this is an advertisement for people to not smoke cigarettes. Don't start smoking cigarettes. Cigarettes aren't cool. But just remember, this shit is fucking crazy. I got this lady going off on some stories. We're going to get right back to the program on the BBC, the British Broadcasting Network, or as I like to call it, I had something earlier for this shit. It was the British Broadcasting Conquistadors. Check out Montezuma. Check out The Fall of the Aztecs. Check out Cyberdrive Music. We're going to get back to the story right now.
Anyway, let's go back to Marlon, who was my mom's oldest brother. The one that was older than her, the one that came after Ollie Inglesby that died.
Oh no.
So anyway.
I gotta go get a beer real quick. I'll be right back.
Get a third beer?
Yep. Yo, we just do this shit. It's a new type of podcast. It's the Record Mom Telling Stories podcast. I'm running up the steps right now. We're going into this fucking building. We're getting a beer. We're going to get a beer right now. We have to get a beer, dude, because you always got to get a beer, you know what I'm saying? All right, now we're going back. Run through here. Run. Go. Get, come on.
You done?
I'm back.
All right. Well, getting back to Marlon, my mom's oldest brother. You know, I told you that they were all these families, the Jenkins, the Robinsons, and the Bills were interrelated.
Right.
Well, not the Jenkins. The Bills, the Robinsons, and the Lindsays were all interrelated. Okay, now we come to Marlon, who's related to the Bills, the Jenkins, Bills, the Robinsons, and the Lindsays. Then we get to his wife, Bertie, who's a Jenkins, okay, which is the fourth. And the Jenkins are related to the Robinsons. Okay, so now we've got the Jenkins, the Bills, the Robinsons, the Lindsays, all related to each other. And he marries a Jenkins, who's related to the Robinsons. And Bertie has a sister, whose name I cannot for the life of me remember. Marlon has 4 boys. Billy Ray, who's the oldest, who was my age. We always called him Tall Boy because he weighed about 90 pounds. He was 6'6", like his dad.
What the?
And then there was Terry, who lives out in Denver, Colorado, that area. Then there was Mickey. Then there was, let's see. There was Billy Ray. There was Terry. There was Mickey. And what was the fourth one's name? I forget his name. But anyway, of all those 4 boys, the only one still alive is the one that lives out in Denver, Colorado. That's Terry. He was in the service for many years. He was a tank commander or something.
Was he a tank commander?
Yeah. So anyway, he's retired now, but he lives out there.
Either.
The other 3 died. One died. Billy Ray died. He had cancer and a lot of other diseases. He died about 15 years ago. His one brother was killed in a car accident. He worked on the riverboats going up and down the Mississippi River, and you'd be on these riverboats for 3 months at a time. And you would get your pay at your end of your 3 months. So he had all his cash in his pocket.
Whoa.
And he got run into by somebody, and the ambulance driver stole all of his money.
The ambulance driver?
The ambulance drivers that came and took his body away stole all of his money. So
And he died?
He died in a car accident, Jesse.
And they stole his money?
Head-on collision. Then the ambulance driver stole the money.
That's a good idea.
Both people were killed in the head-on collision. The drunk that hit him and him.
And the ambulance driver was the only one left?
And the ambulance drivers who came to pick up the bodies stole the money.
Well, that's a good idea because no one's left alive, then it's your money now.
Well, they knew that he had the money. His family knew he had the money because he just got off the boat.
Oh.
Okay, so then the other one died of alcoholism. What was his name? Keith. Keith died of alcoholism.
Chief Keith?
Keith. He worked for William for a while, and William eventually had to fire him because he would just stay drunk all the time.
Oh, God.
And he went on from job to job, and he just finally quit working, and he died of alcoholism, cirrhosis of the liver. He was about, 40, 45 maybe, somewhere between 40 and 45 when he died. His wife had had a stroke. She was a nurse. She really took care of the family. I don't believe they ever had any
stroke.
She recovered from it, but she was a nurse beforehand. She had a stroke and from a brain aneurysm. And anyway, when she recovered, she went back and she's still a nurse, and she took care of him while he was dying from alcoholism. Death is very painful. Liver, very, very painful death.
No.
Yes, it is.
I don't want to talk about that.
And long. Takes a long time.
I need another beer.
So anyway, fortunately she was a nurse and she's able to take care of him until he died. And then she remarried. I forget what her...
Bitch.
Anyway, her new husband doesn't have a alcohol drinking problem. Billy Ray was an alcoholic too, but not near as bad.
Billy Ray.
So anyway, those were Marlon's 4 boys. Well, anyway, getting back to Marlon.
So what the fuck does that have to do with anything?
I'm getting to it. Okay, Marlon's wife was a Jenkins. He married a Jenkins. Her sister was a Jenkins. Well, Marlon, while he had these 4 boys and a wife, started screwing her sister.
Nice.
Yeah, and so he had a daughter by her, and this daughter, Jessica, let's see. Let's go back. The sister, who was a Jenkins, married a Robinson. And so the daughter, who was actually Marlon's daughter, but her husband didn't know that, named her Robinson. And so now we got a Jenkins and a Robinson married to all these other Bills, Robinsons, Jenkins. They're all related. So this is just one spot of the family, one brother of my mom's family.
Wow. He's a conquistador.
Okay, now we're getting to the Jenkins now.
Fernando.
Okay, here we are at the Jenkins. There's 2 Jenkins sisters, Marlon's wife and his sister. Okay? Well, they have a brother, but he moved to Elkhart, Indiana. And he got a job at Continental Can, which was
Continental Can.
Yeah, which was where I worked when I was just got out of high school.
Just a wee little shit.
And my dad worked there. It was a paper mill.
It was a paper mill.
It was right down there by the Elkhart Central High School.
Ooh.
Okay.
I went there.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
So anyway, it's all like soccer fields and ballparks and things back in there now, but that used to be Continental Can where my dad worked.
Continental Can.
Yeah. And anyway, so Buddy Jenkins, who was these 2 Jenkins sisters' brother, moved to Indiana to Elkhart and worked at Continental Can. So when they heard how good work was up here, because this was after the war, and so work fell off down there and was just back to farming and stuff down there.
World War II.
Yeah, so all the people from down south, most of the black people and a lot of the white people moved north during World War II and after World War II. It was called the Great Second Migration.
You gotta get up north.
And so my Aunt Flo came up here, and then my mom. And Buddy Jenkins got them jobs at Continental Can.
Your Aunt Flo and your mom?
Yeah.
Nice.
And then they went, because my mom could silver solder, she got a job at one of the music factories that made band instruments.
Yeah, I remember applying at that place. I applied for a job at, what are they called? It's a double name, starts with a C.
Well, there's Con Selmer.
Con Selmer.
Okay, that's where Mom worked, was at Con
I applied
Selmer.
for that job.
Anyway, she...
still here.
Yeah, I don't...
Yeah, it is. It's over there.
I know where Con Selmer is, but the instruments are now made out of the country, and all it is a warehouse now.
Oh, no.
Except for certain special instruments that they made something fancy for a certain musician or something.
We have to make the instruments for us in our own country.
Yeah, Mom made the instrument what are those, trumpet? For Louis Armstrong.
My
mother made the instrument for Louis Armstrong. Saxmo.
Judith Harms' mother?
Yeah.
Jesse Harms, his
grandmother.
His grandmother made the instrument for Louis Armstrong.
A trumpet for Louis Armstrong. He had
the trumpet for Louis Armstrong, and then Louis got sent off to the moon, and he played golf.
No, he didn't. Anyway, let's get back to Buddy Jenkins. So Buddy Jenkins lived in Elkhart. So my Aunt Betty, who was my mom's next younger sister, next younger after her, came up to visit Indiana, and they met Buddy Jenkins, and she married Buddy Jenkins. So, okay, she's Jenkins, she's a Robinson, she's a Lindsay, she's a Bills. So that was my cousin Butch's mother. Butch Jenkins. They owned a liquor store. She owned a mattress store. They owned 2 liquor stores down in Ruleville.
So everyone's taking over everything.
And they're all related to everybody
They're all
else.
taking over everything.
They're second and third cousins twice removed and so forth. All these 4 families. Jenkins, Robinson, Bills, and Lindsay. Okay, so we got Buddy Jenkins. We got Betty Jenkins. Okay, they lived in Elkhart for many years, but Buddy Jenkins was always running out on, and he got himself another woman, and so my Aunt Betty divorced him. She went back to Ruleville and started her own business and said she's done with men.
Bitch!
She had a lot of successful businesses. She owned a toy factory.
Wow!
Where they made stuffed animals. My mom used to get material and bring it up here and make Halloween costumes for us when we were kids.
I love stuff.
She would buy get all these things of material and bring them up, and Flo would get some, and the school would get some for school projects, and my mom always had something. My dad provided cardboard because he worked at Federal Paperboard or Continental Can, where they made paper for beer, and they had this cardboard and stuff, and they made egg cartons. They called it egg safety back then. That's where I worked. The first summer I worked.
Egg safety.
Yeah.
That's keeping the
But
eggs in the
my dad was an engineer in the paper mill.
Explain that.
He was a chemical engineer in the paper mill there.
A chemical engineer?
Yeah, he mixed all the chemicals and
he did egg safety.
No, he mixed paper. He made paper.
But they did egg safety.
They made paper that made egg cartons.
Yeah, but egg safety, the term,
just means it takes care of the eggs. Or the cartons the eggs come in, Jesse. Big deal.
And that's what I mean. It's very important back then because the eggs were the only way to keep yourself alive and keep the family alive. So egg safety is a big deal. It's like OSHA nowadays. You can't have a damn egg roof leaking. Idiots.
All right, let's go back to... Where was I? I was at Federal Pigs. Okay, so Betty married Buddy Jenkins. They got divorced. Betty moved back to Mississippi, started her own businesses, 2 liquor stores, a toy store, a mattress factory. We actually went down there once and brought a mattress back all the way from Mississippi.
Oh,
and it was really cool.
Me and you went to Chicago to get a bed.
Well, this was like that. Only this was about 6 times as far for a mattress.
6 times?
Oh, yeah.
We went 3 hours for that bed.
750 miles to Mississippi.
750 miles for a mattress?
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
Well, we were going down there to visit relatives anyway, so we might as well bring something back.
You were already on your way there.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Nobody in there.
And you know how we got the mattress back? My mom had this old Impala. It was huge. It had fins almost. It was a horrible color, tan color, and all rusty. I think it was a 1972 or something Impala. It was the biggest car. I mean, it would go from there to probably where you're sitting almost. It was that wide. It was a huge car. We put that mattress on top of the car, covered it with plastic, and drove it back from Mississippi.
That's what me and you kind of did with the bed from Chicago.
Yeah, but we didn't have a truck.
You just had an Impala.
We just had a car. It was on top of the car. And the car's roof was big. I mean, really big. But the front was shadowed and the back was shadowed.
You ever try getting a trailer to put it on?
We didn't have money for a trailer. We just carried it on the car.
You carried shit on top of your car?
Yeah. Oh, you should have seen when Mom and Thelma and I went and picked them up in Miami when I'd gone on vacation with all my camping gear in a Honda Civic.
That's why.
And my mom, I swear she packed 6 months worth of clothes. And Thelma, they all got in this car, and I already had all this big thing on top of the car in the Honda Civic, and the car was packed with a lot of my stuff too. And they get in there, and Thelma is sitting
Do the impersonations.
I'm sitting like this, and she's got stuff on her lap, and up on both sides of the window, and all the way
I'm
over and
taking trips
behind
like
her,
that.
and my mom, and on her feet, and over, and then on the floor in the
She's
front, my
packed
mom,
in.
and she's carrying these big garment bags, and there's, I swear they packed for 6 months.
Yeah, you ain't never
I
been to
didn't
a
want.
music festival?
She said I didn't want to have to do any laundry. I said I don't know how we're going to get it in the car, and we couldn't get it in the car.
That's
Some of it had to be strapped to the top of the roof with bungee cords.
That's how I go to music festivals, with the car packed full of shit and everybody squished in there.
Yeah, well, this was ridiculous. So anyway.
And then we go do acid and mom.
So anyway, that was a whole other trip. I camped out. I took showers in national parks and in state parks, and I had a really good time for 2 weeks that time. That was between Christmas and New Year's one year, and it was perfect weather in Florida. I went all by myself until I met up with them, and I had a less bad good time then.
Yeah, people piss everyone off.
No, I was only pissed off by having too much stuff to carry around in my little bitty car.
So,
And those cars those little Honda Civics back then didn't have much leg room. They were little. They were hatchbacks. They weren't like a Honda Civic today. They were little hatchbacks. And the hatchback came down pretty straight. It wasn't spread out like they are now.
so what the fuck does JFR do with anything?
FDR.
FDR.
Franklin Delano
I
Roosevelt.
know who he is.
Okay, so they
He's
get
that
to,
white guy.
no kidding. They get to Mississippi, and they'd spend 10 years working as sharecroppers, and they never get ahead. They just barely making it. My grandpa's getting older. There's no jobs around. And then Nazis come along and start taking over Europe, and FDR, who was elected president after the Depression in 1933, first thing he did was start giving people jobs. He created most of the national parks and the state parks were all made by people that got jobs from FDR and the Democrats during the Depression.
He created
no. There were parks before that. He did do a lot. Teddy Roosevelt.
That was Teddy Roosevelt that created the parks department.
FDR was Teddy Roosevelt's grandnephew or something like that. Nephew or grandnephew. So anyway, Franklin Roosevelt started. Half the country was unemployed. People didn't have 25 cents in 3 months. There were bread lines in the cities everywhere where you could get a piece of bread and some gruely soup that didn't really have meat or anything in it. It was mostly just broth.
That's the Great Depression.
This was the Great Depression. People were living in tents, makeshift tents or tarps on the streets. That was the big, the Great Dust Bowl, where all the topsoil went away.
Ruined all the crops.
All through the Midwest, bad farming practices, plowing and not just doing straight plowing and letting the topsoil blow away. It created huge dust storms. And from Texas, and then there was drought. From Texas all the way north, almost to Canada, far west into Montana, into California, just before this side of the mountains. California was fine, but this side of the mountains, east, all the way until you got to the Mississippi.
Now you know what
that was a great dust bowl.
You know what that reminds me of? The Great Depression reminds me of what happened to Montezuma.
Okay. Well, Montezuma, some of the problems they had to do with that, yes.
It did.
Because their population started starving because their food supplies were being disrupted by constant fighting.
And smallpox.
Yeah, well, the smallpox. Yeah, 8 million people died in like one year.
And if you're sitting around eating people and cutting animals' heads off and kids' heads off,
The biggest.
wouldn't that lead to
you know what
diseases?
those were called? Those were called flower wars.
Yeah, they said that in the book.
Because they were ritualized. I said, we're going to fight with you, and based on these terms, and whoever wins gets to keep these people for sacrifice.
Exactly.
And we're going to have sacrifice, and you're going to have sacrifice. The biggest sacrifice that Montezuma got at one was 88,000 people. At one time, he took 88,000 people and was able to
Sacrifice to the sun god.
Yeah, and that sort of messed up the food supply for all those people that they fought with.
No, but my point was, you guys are living in the Great Depression. You guys are trying to kick around and figure out how to get out the dust. Now, what's the next part of the dust?
Okay, so we're in the Dust Bowl, and in 1929, we're stacked before the First World War, or after the First World War, but before the Second World War, before Hitler took power in 1933, I believe it was, or 31 or 33. But anyway, there were two Republicans, Calvin Coolidge and Harding, and both of them were real penny pincher, very, very Republican, where they thought, okay, you got to not give anybody any credit. You can't do it. The government can't do anything for anybody. They just have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Like they're doing now.
If the businesses fail, if the banks fail, well, that's just too bad.
And they say if the banks fail, it's not our fault. We're just in charge.
And then the stock market failed in 1929, and all of these rich people.
The rich people got worried and scared.
Well, they even jumped off the buildings and killed themselves off the skyscrapers in New York City.
Woo.
But all of those people lost their jobs. What happened was the money supply is tied to
the Federal Reserve.
No. There was no Federal Reserve then.
Really?
The money.
Oh, that's right. It wasn't started until a certain time.
The money supply is tied to the interest rate for certificates of deposit, which is what the government would use to borrow money from.
Before the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
If the interest rate for the money supply goes down to zero or below zero, and this is what happened in 2008.
And it's what's happening right now.
Money supply was crashing.
Yeah, it's what's happening right now.
No, it isn't. It isn't right now. So anyway, back in 2008, they had to prop that money supply up, or certificates of deposit. If you had bought a $100 certificate of deposit, it could be worth $80 instead of $100.
Exactly.
That would destroy the faith and credit of the United States. The United States would no longer be able to borrow money from anybody. So that's why it's very important that money supply be stable, those certificates of deposit. Because those bonds are the basis of the government being able to function.
And on top of that, they're using fractional reserve banking to rip that whole fucking payment off.
So anyway,
and they're still doing it.
The stock market crashed, the Dow Jones went belly up, everybody lost their jobs, the depression had actually been in effect for my mother's family for 10 years before that. People were losing money. They weren't able to get credit. They had all of this. They were losing. They weren't able. There was no business was being squeezed. If there's no money out there, this business, you can't take things over from this business. You can't buy something from this business because you don't have any money. And this business can't buy the stuff they need. It's a cycle. All that money circulates and it helps everybody.
Yeah.
But if there's no money, that can't circulate.
Yeah, kind of like how they shut all the fucking businesses down during COVID. And that's what their plan was the whole time. It had nothing to do with the virus. They wanted to crush middle-class society.
So anyway,
they wanted to close all the small
forget
businesses.
COVID. So getting back to the Depression, Warren Harding and Calvin Coolidge destroyed the economy.
No.
And as a result of that, a Democrat, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was elected in 1929 to become president in 1930. And all of the House of Representatives, most of the House of Representatives, and most of the Senate were also Democrats. So FDR had a fairly free hand, except for the Supreme Court, to do what he needed to do to get the country out of the Depression. And it took years and lots of work. One of the first things he did was create the Civilian Conservation Corps. He created the Tennessee Valley Authority. He got electricity. He built the Hoover Dam.
Yeah, like Woody Guthrie was talking about in his songs. He said, the thing is, you have to be hooked up to the electricity line, because if you're not, you're doomed.
So anyway,
it was a great joy to be hooked up to the power line.
Franklin Roosevelt got the Tennessee Valley Authority. They built dams, they built power stations, all through the South. That's out west.
Oh.
This was down south.
Hoover Dam.
No, the Hoover Dam is out west too. Those are the Colorado River dams. And anyway, getting back to the South, the Tennessee Valley Authority electrified the South. Very few homes, all these sharecropper homes, none of those houses had electricity.
Right.
I mean, they didn't even have toilets.
That's what Woody Guthrie's song was about.
So all of these houses, all these country roads, they got electricity. All of these towns, they got electricity. They got street lights. They've got power plants that would generate power. All of those things created jobs. All of those people got jobs. They had money they could spend for their families. They spent that money. That business got that money. That business spent that money to buy more stuff to sell to more people, and blah, blah, blah. And everything picked up.
And they could work at nighttime because they have lights there.
Yes. Okay, well, before that, they all lived on kerosene. My grandparents had kerosene lamps in that house. When they had light, they used kerosene.
Where do you get kerosene?
Kerosene was a sort of oil that you would get. It's a petroleum product, but it was sort of before gasoline and oil. It was a byproduct of gasoline, and they would use it to light lamps with. Yeah. And you would get these big, you could still buy it now, these big metal containers, and
there's one
home, and
dude, Timmy,
you could run a heater with it, or you could run lights with it.
This one dude, Timmy, in town, he had a little shed not bigger than one of the little tin houses we got that we just looked through earlier. He had a little shack. And he had a giant kerosene heater in it. We'd play beer pong in there and cards and
those
beers.
are dangerous to have those
and the fumes.
You should never be in a closed space.
It's a closed environment with a giant kerosene
That's probably
heater.
why you're so dumb, huh?
I'm not dumb. I'm awesome. I'm immune to the gases.
Anyway.
Anyway, let me finish my little tidbit of the story. We were playing cards and beer pong and getting fucked up and doing cocaine in this little goddamn tin kerosene house. It wasn't made of tin, but it was as big as a tin building. A small little 6x6 fucking room with about 8 people.
You obviously never had any sense.
And we had Timmy had the kerosene heater as big as a giant fucking 50-gallon drum in the corner, and it would heat the place while we would all get fucked up and do drugs and shit. Anyway, I gotta take a piss and then we'll get back to the story, because I gotta piss and get another beer, man. And that's not why I'm too stupid.
Get out of this. Get all these empty beers off my table.
Okay, I'll throw them on the floor. I'm gonna throw them on the damn floor then. Throw them in the trash?
Get them out of here. I don't want them in here.
Ooga booga. Alright. Should I go to bed and fucking do the rest of this tomorrow?
Yeah. I'm not telling any more stories. I'm done.
You've been on the podcast for an hour and a half telling stories.
Jeez, great.
And it's perfect audio, and you're here.
I don't want to hear it.
This is the Judith Harms podcast.
I'm not telling anything else.
This is the conclusion.
You're recording me.
This is the conclusion of the Judith Harms podcast. You're listening to the BBC.
Goodbye.
You're on the BBC, Mom.
Goodbye.
Any last words for your followers?
Goodbye.
Awesome. Thank you for listening. You guys have a good night on the internet.